Welcome to Visionaries Global Media, your number one source for podcasting entertainment. Visionaries Global Media, envisioning excellence on a global scale.
This is Banned from Ringside.
Tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast, we give you our NXT TakeOver recap, our SummerSlam recap. Roman's back, and so are those chompers. We talk about AEW Saturday night. We got some NJPW stuff coming up later, and we give you our Payback predictions. Man, we are pay-per-view starved over here on the WWE front. That and a whole bunch more tonight on the Banned from Ringside podcast.
Welcome back, man.
Reunited and it feels so good. Ditch that 9 to 5. It's time to feel alive. Hello, Mark. So welcome to the Banned from Ringside podcast. As always, or maybe not as always, so recently, I am your host, Bill Vagey, a.k.a. the Road Warrior, because I have been to Michigan and back to St. Louis and back to Indiana. But now I'm back in South St. Louis. And over there in Edwardsville, Illinois, we have Two Beer Zach Palmer. What's going on, Two Beer?
Also, a road warrior. You'd probably be Animal because you have an alcoholic partner. And I'm just sitting here with a margarita and an Oktoberfest on my porch. So
good for you. Double fisting, and it feels so good. And over there in University City, St. Louis, Missouri, we have Jason Cornelius Bell. What's going on, JCB?
Allow us to bow our heads as I read from the latest edition of the Banned from Ringside podcast, volume 170, chapter 3, verse 14. And the good smart saith, hashtag boo the heels. It is all good, baby. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat. Big wrestling weekend. Some surprises, some not surprises. Like you said, a little New Japan. It's packed. We've been crying about, we don't have wrestling to talk about. We got plenty of wrestling to talk about this week.
Plenty, man. I am coming at you from steamy South St. Louis. I want to thank my co-hosts, Two Beer and JCB, for holding down the reins 2 weeks ago, and JCB really doing it up big time last week, taking the solo show. It was great. We appreciate you taking care of it. We tried to do it.
My voice is still a little hoarse.
I tried to do it from the car, and we had technical difficulties. For all you loyal listeners out there, we do apologize that it didn't work out for it. But, Jay, you were in good hands with JCB. How'd it go? How did it feel doing the solo show? Did you feel like you didn't go long enough, Jason?
Yeah, right. I was about to say it was an hour and a half. Are you kidding me? I mean, no, it was, if I ever did, and I always said that maybe one day I want to do, something solo by myself and just talk about, like, New Japan or Impact, something like that. That was a long time for me just to talk, and it felt like a long time afterwards. So, yeah, it was good to do it, but, man, I'm glad you jokers are back.
I never last an hour and a half when I do a solo show. I'm just too good at it.
Maybe I shouldn't tell this joke, but when you're on, you're looking around for, a solo show, you're looking to jerk off, and it's like, and you're on Pornhub and it says, try not to come. It's like, brother, that's the exact opposite reason I'm here. Before we get, this is a great segue into our sponsor, F&B Eatery. Why don't you tell us about it, JCB?
F&B Eatery on the corner of 3453 Southampton and Marquette, home of the best smash burger you've never heard of. So go alleviate that problem. Go get you some curbside. Go on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, F&B Eatery. All the same, one word in this scenario. That way you can make sure that when you are ready to go, they are open for you. They are closed on certain days, Mondays and Tuesdays, but they are open the rest of the week, especially during the evening hours. I believe it starts at 4 and goes from 4 to 8, 4 to 9, depending on the day. So like I said, do yourself a favor. Follow them on social media, like I said, F&B Eatery, and then do yourself the second favor. Get yourself a little piece of happiness in this big hell we call 2020. Go to F&B Eatery. telling the band from Ringside sent you.
Wouldn't you know, this is going to be like the only episode my mom listens to. Without further ado, I'll tell you what, boys. I've been looking forward to this. I took a couple weeks off of wrestling because, I was on vacation, and then I had some family stuff that I had to attend in Indiana. And I took a couple weeks off wrestling, and I've been looking forward to today because I am ready to talk some wrestling. I've been watching wrestling since I clocked in this morning at my job at 7 a.m. till 3:30, and I am ready to talk. So without further ado, let's get to that. 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
JCB, kick it off.
Let's do it as chronologically as we possibly can. Let's jump back to Saturday night. NXT TakeOver XXX, 30 for those who can't do the Roman numerals. My biggest takeaway from NXT TakeOver is, I hate to say it, but give me the spoon and let me go ahead and eat my words. Pat McAfee is the biggest takeaway for me from NXT TakeOver. This should have been the bathroom break match, and it basically stole the show. No disrespect to Keith Lee and Kieran Cross, who I thought had a really good main event. A little surprising how it ended, but not surprising because we kind of all thought that's what was going to happen. But yeah, for me, Pat McAfee is the star of NXT TakeOver 30. I did not think he had that in him. Granted, he has to have some sort of athleticism being a NFL player, but he's a punter. And then the next thing you know, I look up, he's jumping to the top rope, springing like a cat. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And now, we have this instant classic on our hands. And I'm sitting here just thinking, I got to be one of the biggest, dumbest motherfuckers on the planet Earth. I did not see this coming. Pat McAfee, like I said, I can't rave about him more than that. From there, I'll jump to the main event. Obviously, Kieran Cross wins the title, but separates his shoulder in doing so. Relinquishes the title on NXT last night. Obviously, we could talk about that a little more later on. I knew this was going to happen, but it felt weird because it just feels like it felt like Keith Lee was already leaving, but he really didn't have a title reign to, make it feel like, okay, it was good for him to leave. And then obviously Cross gets hurt. So now here's the double whammy. Good part about that is obviously you have the 4-way Iron Man match once again for the title. We could talk about that later. The ladder match for the North American title was okay. Probably one of my least favorite ladder matches in NXT. Just kind of fell short. I'm not sure why it is. It was a spot fest, but not necessarily saying a spot fest is always a good thing. For me, the story was kind of missing until Timothy Thatcher kind of got involved again. Io and Dakota was okay. Once again, kind of predictable because Io can't lose this early, but Dakota brought it. So, I can't be mad about that. Thatcher and Balor was the curtain jerker. I thought Timothy Thatcher was getting ready to take this bad boy. Literally, there was a couple of times where I thought Finn Balor was going to tap, but Finn takes it there. Solid takeover, not the best. I will say that with certainty, but there was just a couple of times where it felt a little off, the main event being the biggest one, because I just think that I knew Keith Lee was going to lose, but it still felt weird. And I watched it again, and it still felt weird watching it the second time. So I'm not sure if it's just me and it was just so soon and they did it anyway, or there was something about the match, but that's just me.
Zach, what's your biggest takeaway of SummerSlam 2020?
Yeah, it was a SummerSlam or NXT
I'm sorry,
30?
NXT TakeOver 30.
I was like, oh, you're throwing me a curveball.
No, I'm looking at SummerSlam on my. Sorry, yes, TakeOver 30.
Yeah, so same man, Pat McAfee. I was on record saying like this is not for me, and then I wasn't on last week. Neither one of us were. It's just Jason.
I want to point out that Zach sent me his predictions, and I sent mine predictions to him. Zach completely shit the bed, had 0. And I was perfect. So I know that we didn't say it on the show. But I had a really good week, guys.
Yeah, whatever.
I think it's actually more accurate that I got drunk and forgot to send my predictions.
I didn't predict anything either.
Oh, nice. Well, call it a wash.
I was about to say, if I'm dude who like to brag, which you know I do, I did pretty well. Thank you very much.
I bet you did.
I did.
Go ahead, Zach.
So, yeah, with the McAfee stuff, like the previous week on NXT, that dude was the highlight of the show. Like, they had that well done angle at the end of the show 2 weeks ago where he punted Adam Cole and knocked him out, and I was like, well, this isn't for me. I don't really like Pat McAfee, but like this angle was well shot. And then the next week, the dude comes out and cuts a legitimate, awesome pro wrestling promo on NXT TV. Highlight of the entire show, highlight of the night for NXT programming. And then on TakeOver, his entrance was another awesome promo. And then the guy goes out and has arguably the best in-ring debut for a singles match that I've ever seen. And it wasn't about the big flip that you see a lot where you dive onto some guys. I mean, like, I could do that flip. Like, you just, like, flip and, 8 guys catch you. It was about the headlocks and the takedowns and the guy, taking bumps.
The facial expressions.
Absolutely. The only thing that I could say sucked about Pat McAfee was his lockup. But we saw that at the very beginning. I was like, that's an ugly looking lockup. And then,
I was getting concerned too. I was like, oh shit, this is gonna go south quick. They're gonna shit the bed.
And then he just blew it away. And like, I wouldn't mind seeing Pat McAfee on a regular NXT like television. He was that good, and his promo was that good. So that was the big highlight. Another highlight was how good of a technical wrestler Finn Balor is. I guess this guy just prefers Lucha Libre because that's all we really see him do. But then he gets in there with Timothy Thatcher. It's kind of like, not to that extent, but like, you guys remember Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. wrestled last year, and we're like, holy shit, Will Ospreay is actually one of the best technical wrestlers in the world. He just doesn't do that style. And this was like that. Like, Finn Balor is one of the better technical wrestlers like in the world in this company, and he totally played to Timothy Thatcher's strengths, and those guys looked awesome, and they had an awesome match. So it was my second favorite match of the night. Pat McAfee and Adam Cole being my favorite, Finn Balor, Timothy Thatcher being my second. Io Shirai, Dakota Kai, the work was fine, but the build was like, there wasn't, the only way that Dakota Kai was winning this thing is if Io was going to the main roster, and that apparently isn't happening. So that was what it was. I think I had the same feelings as Jason regarding the ladder match. Great spots, a lot of energy. I think really part of it was watching Thunderdome live on Friday night SmackDown and having AEW Dynamite being in that outdoor thing with those fans and like with the crowd sweetening. And then this just kind of fell flat. It just didn't have those crowd reactions because, if you're doing all these crazy bumps, you really want some like good energy in there, and it just wasn't there. But the right guy won, and that was cool. And then the main event was subpar for a main event. I like both these guys a lot, and I think the right guy won. We can talk about Keith Lee's debut on the main roster, but I don't want to harangue the one count here, but yeah, Kieran Cross is the guy. It's unfortunate, but I really didn't like this match, which is weird because I like both these guys a lot. It was just kind of there, but maybe it wasn't my cup of tea as far as like what I like in wrestling. But I mean, like, it was just kind of just a regular professional. It was like a TV match, right? Like that seemed like a TV match to me, which should not be a TakeOver main event level match, especially when I like both these guys so much. But overall, not the best TakeOver I've ever seen. Definitely not the worst, as we've seen with the TakeOver recaps that we've been doing. But good show. Good way to spend your Saturday night.
Yeah, I like the show too. I mean, what else can I say about Pat McAfee? I mean, I said I took 2 weeks off of wrestling. I did happen to catch some of last week's NXT. I mean, when I say I took 2 weeks off of wrestling, it means I only watched 1 hour as opposed to 16 hours over the 2 weeks. But I did see the Pat McAfee promo from a couple weeks ago, and I was ready to talk about it with Jason last week. It was an incredible promo, an incredible heel promo. You know, I always talk about those tough enough promos where it just seems like a guy's trying to act like a wrestler. That was not the case with Pat McAfee's promo a couple weeks ago. It was a legit great heel promo. I want to echo what Zach said in terms of his promo coming into the match at TakeOver was good. You know, you can't discount what Adam Cole brings to it, but it was a legit great match, and that's not... I was asking myself as I was watching it, is this the soft bigotry of low expectations? Is it because that I'm watching a guy that I know has never wrestled a match on television, much less a pay-per-view before, much less a TakeOver? But no, it was really good. He plays the part. He plays the chicken shit heel. He begged off a couple times. You can tell the guys watched Ric Flair a couple times, as everybody should. It was a very fun match. The right guy went over, and like Jason said, when Cole pushes him off the top turnbuckle, he lands on his feet, and then he does that straight up plyometric onto the top rope, and then does a perfect superplex, just a perfect superplex onto Cole. That's impressive shit. There's not a lot of people that can go out there, and there's tons of athletes. But obviously, the guy's been a fan of wrestling forever. He gets what wrestling is supposed to be, and I love the match.
Yeah, actually, I don't want to cut in too much
Please.
on your commentary, but I do want to say that this actually the last 2 weeks have turned me into a Pat McAfee fan.
Yes.
Because even if I don't like the person, like, I have friends that I don't necessarily like, right? You know, you maybe got that friend that, like, you know, talks while he eats, or you got that friend that talks about stock market too much, or like whatever. Like, I can still respect that person, and I respect that Pat McAfee respects this business because he is not just some douchebag trying to cash a check. This guy respects professional wrestling, and like you said, he's not out there pretending to be pro wrestler. He very obviously wants to do this right, and kudos to him, man, because he did a great job.
Best debut ever?
Probably, I would say before that it was like Ronda.
Yeah,
but Ronda was in a tag match in WrestleMania, and so it wasn't 100% singles match. So,
you know, Stephen Amell had a good showing at what was that? That was the first All In, right?
That was All In. Yeah, that was good.
I thought that was All In.
Yeah, he was good too. And the same thing with Pat McAfee. Same thing with him as Pat McAfee. Even though I didn't know who the fuck Stephen Amell was. He was somebody that you could tell respected the business, respected the art form, you know, without trying to sound too highfalutin about it. But I'm with Zach. Like, sometimes, and Jason too, sometimes you kind of push back against these celeb matches because you're like, why don't you give this slot to somebody, to some new talent, somebody who knows what they're doing? It looks like he knows what he's doing, and if he decides to hang it up and this is a one-off, that's completely up to him. I would think that he would probably catch the bug, and in front of an NXT Full Sail audience, that match would have brought the fucking house down. That place would have been going absolutely ape shit for that match.
Or just if it was where I know for a fact it had been whatever. Well, I guess Boston was the destination for SummerSlam this year, so it had been in the TG Garden or whatever. So I mean,
that place it would have been apoplectic.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, it is what it is. Unfortunately, that's where the pandemic kind of kicks our ass. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I can't help but just to trip off how great he was. I said it to a friend of mine the other day at work because he was talking about it. He's like, "Did you know about this?" I was like, "No." I mean, he's Billy Hoyle from White Man Can't Jump. He just walked in, and then the next thing you know, he has the match of the night, and you looked around, and you're like, did that just happen? Was that the match of the night? And everybody's like, yeah, that was the match of the night.
My mom's too drunk to be an astronaut.
That was a decently dated reference, but not quite as dated as the Haystacks Calhoun reference we got on Raw. But,
just Adam's Family, Haystacks Calhoun. I will say, though, but that was not my biggest takeaway from TakeOver, and I don't want to be a downer, but my biggest takeaway from TakeOver is that kind of this is definitely a new era of NXT, and it's not the NXT that got everybody fired up all the time. It's not the work rate NXT. I mean, you look at Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher was really cool. The ladder match was, as far as ladder matches go, pretty subpar. You know, you expect a lot of those ladder matches, and maybe they're just a victim of their own success. But it used to be smaller wrestlers, work rate guys that just put on a hell of a show. You know, as much as I like Damian Priest, the artist formerly known as Punishment Martinez, you know, as good as he is, he's not really a work rate guy. He's not a guy that's going to set the place on fire and give you the match of the night. Bronson Reed, I have nothing against the individual guys in the match, but we are moving away from. I mean, remember the 6-man match that established the North American title with Ricochet and Cole and all those guys. I mean, that was a crazy match. This match, to me, it was a main roster ladder match, if that. I mean, main roster ladder matches got put on the map with Shelton Benjamin and Kofi Kingston, Dolph Ziggler, guys like that, Daniel Bryan. You know, and then you get to the main event, and as much as I like Keith Lee and Kieran Cross, and as much as I know they want to bring Keith Lee up, that's not what I expect from a main event in an NXT TakeOver. And a main event from an NXT TakeOver, when you think of the creme de la creme, you think of Adam Cole versus Gargano, you think of Ciampa Gargano, you think of Samoa Joe versus Nakamura, you think of Finn Balor. You know, it's just it's not the NXT TakeOver that it used to be, and I have to say I left it feeling a little disappointed.
I don't want to say disappointed because TakeOver has always been one of my favorites, but I do agree with you to a certain degree. It did have its main roster moments. The ladder match, I'll just say this, and this is obviously we can play backseat driver or Monday morning quarterback with it. I think a part of this had something to do with already thinking that Cross was going to be the champion. So you want to keep guys that are credible, available, just in case you do pull the trigger. Gargano, Dream are a couple of those guys. I would assume that Undisputed Era would all move up at some point. Obviously, Keith Lee beat them to it. I thought they would be the first, but neither here nor there. I guess with the ladder match, it just came to like really 3 people, and that out of those 3 people, for me, Damian Priest made the most sense. Outside of that, I mean, I didn't have a problem with TakeOver. It just, I think we've gotten spoiled with TakeOver. Okay, I'll call myself to the carpet. I've gotten spoiled with TakeOver, especially when we started to look back, because now I'm getting ready to see the TakeOver is getting ready to be really, really great, and what made TakeOver so great, why the bar is so high.
In our TakeOver do-overs is what you're saying.
Yeah. I was going to say, as we're looking back, you know, I'm seeing like, you know, Bobby Roode starting to come up, you know, Nakamura just, you know, is at the height of his NXT fame. We saw the Samoa Joe run. We saw the Finn Balor run. You know, there's guys, you know, we haven't even touched on Ciampa Gargano yet. So I mean, we're getting ready to get into what would be considered the quote unquote golden era of NXT. So yeah, I mean, anything in comparison might fail in comparison. So I mean, let's just take this for what a grain of salt is. There's a lot of moving parts, and now obviously the biggest moving part is the NXT title is up for grabs next week. So I mean, we're just gonna have to let this thing play itself out and see what happens. With NXT, they have earned my trust and get the benefit of the doubt. If this was the main roster, I would shit on it so quick and make a headspin.
Yeah. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I'm definitely in the kind of wheelhouse of this is not the NXT that it was whenever it was a 1-hour show, because that was arguably the greatest 1-hour professional wrestling show that ever existed, right? Like, during that time period, up and down the card, it was tight, it was concise. They filmed like 6 to 8 weeks at a time so that they had like regular ongoing storylines. Oh God. That just happened. So anyway, they couldn't change them, right? They couldn't change those storylines. And I think them going into this Wednesday Night War fundamentally changed the show. And it is what it is, and it's a product of the Wednesday Night War environment, and we're gonna get some cool shit. Like, we get this Fatal 4-Way because that's definitely part of a ratings war, and it's gonna be something. But overall, the show and WWE as a brand is in decline, and it's not that I'm happy to say it. I'm grieving. I'm like a widower grieving over a grave here, but it is in decline. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily in decline. I just think it might be shifting eras a little bit. But to have, when's the last time we had two legit heavyweights fight in the main event at NXT TakeOver? I would say that it's probably never happened unless you consider Nakamura a heavyweight.
They called him at what was the most recent TakeOver? I watched San Antonio. I know you guys haven't. I think it's 225. So I wouldn't consider that a heavyweight. I mean, it's, you know, he weighs a lot. But
technically it's technically a heavyweight, but he doesn't wrestle like a heavyweight.
Right, he doesn't wrestle like a heavyweight.
He's not a Brock Lesnar kind of heavyweight. You know, his style makes him different than what a traditional heavyweight is. You know, I'm looking at the start of the ladder match. Bronson Reed looks like a heavyweight, obviously. Oh, yeah. Damian Priest looks more like a heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? He fights as such.
And I like Bronson. I like Bronson Reed too. I do, and I like the spot where Candice LeRae was on his back and he did the splash anyway. Like, I thought that was cool. I did enjoy the TakeOver. It's better than, of course, it's better than main roster shit. Like, no doubt. It's just, I just kept thinking this isn't your mama's TakeOver. You know what I mean?
No, I get it, but I mean, things are in flux. Okay,
yeah.
Even if you didn't have a pandemic going on, if we just talk straight storyline, you just moved Keith Lee up to the main roster to put the title on Cross, who now is hurt. So now you got to come up with another champion.
Well, and I'm going to be completely happy with whatever champion comes out of that 4-way Iron Man match next week. We can talk about that later, though. Let's move on to SummerSlam, unless anybody has anything else to say.
Yeah, two things. One, Keith Lee crowning as champion was for the ratings. Two, I was 4 for 6 out of predictions.
Okay, how hard? I just want to. Let's just try to figure this out. How long are you going to keep touting yourself as being correct about the Keith Lee thing being for the ratings? Because we knew the next week when he relinquished the Northern American title that you were right. Everybody admitted that you were right. But how long are you going to keep saying it?
Probably for a few more weeks. every time I see Keith Lee, probably sometime later on this afternoon, if we talk about Keith Lee on the main roster.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Keith Lee on the main roster, too.
Then guess what? I'm going to bring it up then.
I do want to say this, and again, I don't want to be a downer. I don't really get the Dakota Kai thing. I mean, she's all right, I guess.
I'll speak for it, at least for me. I get the Dakota Kai thing. I love the heel turn, and it pretty much it's put eyes on her where her talent was already there. The character was in question. Now she has a character, she has a heavy behind her.
Two Beer Zach, Dakota Kai, hand or jobber?
Total hand. I am a huge Dakota Kai fan. I am not a fan of how she's been booked in the past few months, I'd say, because there was the time where she was just a total scaredy cat with Shayna Baszler, and then even though she's actually legitimately pretty tough, and then now she's a total nerd, and Raquel Gonzalez fights all her battles, even though it seems like whenever she was fighting Io, in the build up, it seemed like Raquel should actually get the title shot because Raquel was the one doing all the work. I don't like that pairing so much. It doesn't necessarily add heat for Dakota. It just kind of takes away from Dakota. But Dakota on her own, super talent, good promo, excellent work rate, incredibly marketable. That's my politically correct way to say she's mega hot. And I think she could really carry that brand given the right opportunity. But with that muscle, it's not really doing it. Now I just seem more interested in seeing Raquel get title shots, even though she's not as good.
Marks! Let's get to that 2 counts.
You can say you're right, Jason, again whenever you're ready.
You're right, Jason. You're always right. 2 Beer, what's the 2 count?
2 count. So you want to go chronologically? You want to do the Saturday night, the AEW recap?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's just do that. Saturday night, AEW. This
Speaking
did not
of
run
Mars.
right. Yeah, I know, right? this didn't run right at 6:05, but it was in that realm. I don't know what time it actually ran.
I heard 6:30 from other people that were actually watching Saturday night, 6:20, 6:30.
Yeah, so there's the biggest takeaway, obviously, is Cody loses the TNT Championship. This is what closes the show. Brody Lee totally just demolishes him, squashes Cody. And, I thought going in that this might be the week, right? Because we see Cody every week, and the announcers have done a very good job of saying, Cody defends us every week. He's also an executive vice president of this company. He is taking on an enormous workload, and they really speak to his heritage and stuff like that. His whole motto, do the work. But they do a good job every week of saying this is an inhuman form. This is an inhuman workload, right? He's only going to be able to do this for so long. And whenever, the last couple weeks, there's been some times where I'm okay, maybe they're going to do this. And with Brody Lee, I was they pushed Brody Lee pretty hard. He's obviously an excellent worker. Maybe they're going to do this. And they did it. And they didn't do it in a way that I would have thought, but they actually did it in a way that was actually exceedingly more effective, where they had Brody Lee completely squash this guy. And not only squash him, but then do a stretcher job, which they don't do, right? This is the first time AEW's done a stretcher job. And then Brody Lee continues to beat the shit out of him, beats the shit out of Arn Anderson, uses the broken TNT title belt in a bag to beat the shit out of both of them. It was awesome, right?
Very effective. Very effective.
Who would have thought? Very effective. And this was cool, man. And it totally transcended anything else on the show. I really liked the opener, the curtain jerker, because coming off of NBA, right? You got a really great lead in. Usually they're Wednesday night. They got some shitty movie, right? It's always whatever, TNT movie, something that was in theaters 5 years ago, did blockbuster hits or not.
Yeah, it's that Tarzan movie with the guy from True Blood.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's not like an effective lead-in. But here you got the NBA, right? You got a young audience. You've got millions of people. Maybe not like multi-millions, but you got like 8 million or maybe a little bit more watching the NBA, and you got to like hook new fans, right? So they throw out some young blood. They throw out Private Party and the Revival, and this is a total styles clash. And I was like, wow, how's this going to work? Private Party, a little green. Revival, arguably, one of the best tag teams in the world, but very decidedly old school. How's this going to work? And it turns out Private Party can, kind of wrestle more of a Revival style match, or FTR, I'm sorry. But they had a really fun, like, curtain jerker. And, that's the kind of stuff. You want to show some new blood. You want to show some fans. Maybe you put, like, the 6-man instead, like with Young Bucks and Kenny with Dark Order. Maybe they could have flip-flopped those because you got your real stars out there, like for that lead-in for those NBA people. But overall, like, this was like an entertaining show. Again, just like TakeOver, fun way to spend your Saturday night. It's been a few days. Like, normally I would like have it like much more fresh, like in my memory. But the things that stood out were those two matches, those tag matches, Cody losing the title, and then the Moxley at MJF promos. Moxley, who does promos like an actual world champion, an actual person that has legitimacy, right?
Yes.
He has credibility.
Yes.
You listen to this guy, and he tells you exactly what's going to happen.
Yes.
And then he goes out and he does it.
Yes.
And that is 100% what you want your world champion to do.
Exactly. You stole it from me.
Heel. Ah, nice. Well, it's because it's true, right? It's right there for your eyes to see it. And then it's not like smoke and mirrors. Like, he tells you what's going to happen, and then it happens.
Yes.
And then you got MJF with this, like, running gag. And, he's a total geek asshole, and he's perfect at it. And my favorite part of that, his promo was great. But you notice he always tells that girl on his campaign team to smile.
Yes.
And that promo went on for, like, 3 or 4 minutes, and she did not move a muscle in her face. She was just completely smiling over his shoulder.
She's like a Cheshire cat, boy.
Oh, I loved it. But those are my favorite parts of Dynamite. Like usual, a fun show. Really helped to build up to this pay-per-view. And we'll see where it goes.
JCB.
I won't take credit for this analogy, but I'll give the credit where it's due. Tinder Mahal and I talked about the show the other day, and his analogy about Cody versus Brody Lee was the build for Rocky 3. All the guys leading up to Brody Lee were not of quality, good guys, but they had a flaw here or there.
Wow.
Picked the flaw of choice.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
It's not bad.
Brody Lee
no, I get it.
But Brody Lee was basically Clubber Lang. And the announcers set it up week after week, slowly but surely. Cody got nicked here. Cody got nicked there. It's what's supposed to happen when the champion goes every week defending the title. So here's Brody Lee, obviously, a little on the downslope after the John Moxley title loss and just the basic stagnant of the Dark Order in general. And it all of a sudden, it just came in one fell swoop. This is what the Dark Order is, what I envisioned the Dark Order should be. And they did it in like 10 minutes. It was absolutely perfect. Even Anna Jay got her some. So, I mean, at that point, that's where I was like, okay, see, now this is a true blue faction. Now, where they go from here, another question entirely. I thought that was done really, really well. The other, at least for me, the biggest thing that I took away from it is Kenny Omega. Okay, now see, he's slamming jokers around left and right. I'm telling you, sooner or later, they're going to drop the titles, probably to FTR, and then Kenny Omega is going to go heel, and then that's when this shit's going to really start getting fun. Kenny Omega going heel, to me,
Can't
once
wait.
again, is the biggest takeaway for Dynamite. Jericho and Orange Cassidy in a Mimosa match. I'm sorry, That's just not for me. I don't think that Orange Cassidy and God bless both of them, Jericho too. I don't think either one of them could pull this one off. If you can, God bless you.
Dude, every time we think that though, like when it comes to Jericho, he does it.
Hey, then you're going to have to prove me wrong one more time. I already got the spoon for Pat McAfee. I can wash that spoon off and use it for the Mimosa match.
How much you guys want to bet Mike Tyson comes out and throws Jericho into that?
That's the only thing I can think of. That's the only thing I can think of because they haven't paid off the Mike Tyson first appearance. And they haven't done anything after that. That's the only thing.
I want to say this, and I'll let you finish. I'm going to let you finish.
No.
But when Jericho came out and cut that promo and they went to the video of the Mimosa Mayhem match and it had the voiceover being real serious, it's like 80 gallons of orange juice. If that would have, I started thinking to myself, if this was in WWE, I would hate it.
Oh yeah.
But then I started thinking that WWE would never do anything this funny because if they had a Mimosa Mayhem match, it would be on the pre-show or something, or they would not be nearly as funny as specifying that it's 80 gallons of orange juice and 500 bottles of a bit of the bubbly. I laughed out loud while I was watching that. Like a legit laugh, not like a wrestling laugh, not like Rikishi doing the stink face type of laugh or the fucking Vince McMahon humor who acts like my 12-year-old nephew. I'm talking that was legitimately funny.
Can I get a loan from your 12-year-old nephew?
What? Yeah, he's loaded. Yeah. He's got so much money.
Oh, shit.
I'm saying I think the Mimosa Mayhem, I'm looking forward to it. It seems like it's an excuse for Jericho to go into a big vat of mimosa, but it's going to be that's going to be memorable.
Yeah, for sure. And like it's predictable, but predictable is good. Like you see that and you're like, "Oh my god, like Jericho is going to splutter and he's going to spit and he's going to be like totally soaked and he's going to throw a total baby fit and it's awesome, right? Like that's what you want to see and you want to see that so bad.
It also makes it sound like Orange Cassidy's going to win the rubber match and I'm not sure that's going to happen.
Well, he won the other one clean. He won the second one clean, so this one's going to involve some fuckery, right? That's why I say like maybe Mike Tyson comes in. Maybe it's like best friends. You know, it's a little more mundane, and it's just like
Mike
best
Tyson
friends. And they all come out.
They said that you can. They said that you can win by pinfall submission or being thrown into the mimosa. So I wouldn't. Man, I love
Mike Tyson coming in.
I love that I have a wrestling
podcast.
podcast.
To do it. I mean, he could come in. The Roy Jones Jr. fight's been pushed back. He could fly in, push Jericho in, fly back, keep training.
I love that I can have a wrestling podcast where I get to say the sentence, listen, he can lose by pinfall submission or being thrown into the mimosa. I really like the FTR Tully stuff, and I liked Hangman Page coming in there. Brody Lee, was this live? Was this show live? Were they?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Were they under?
They're on again, off again, but I can't remember which week we were on.
I thought this was a live show. I could be wrong.
Were they under a time restraint to get it done, or do you think the plan was to have Brody Lee squash Cody?
I think the plan was for him to squash him.
Well, then that's brilliant.
Me too.
I mean, that's how you make an impact. I think back to when Goldberg faced Brock Lesnar and squashed him in 40 seconds or whatever at, I guess that was Royal Rumble one year maybe or something. But it was right before WrestleMania. But that's how you get... They have my attention now. I've been asking for Dark Order to have some sort of direction for a while now. At least this feud's going to give them some direction, and against the Nightmare Family being the baby faces. I also enjoyed Kenny Omega beating the shit out of people. I enjoyed Eddie Kingston coming out and getting in the face of the Butcher and the Blade. You don't like Eddie Kingston, JCB?
No, I agree totally. I think he's the mouthpiece of whatever faction that's going to be. I think it's perfect.
Guy can cut a
Yeah, so,
promo.
like, you watched Lucha Underground, Jason, and I remember in Lucha Underground, Pentagon got over with Spanish-spoken promos,
Right.
with subtitles, right?
Right.
Because it was more cinematic. Like, I imagine they can't necessarily do that. It'd be harder to do, like, on Dynamite, but you can do it. But if you're not going to do that, that's the one aspect that Pentagon and Phoenix are missing, right? Is the promo aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So putting Eddie Kingston with them,
Well, I mean,
my
for
God,
that
plus
matter,
it adds, because Pac's not there because he was the trio,
Right.
And now if Eddie Kingston's going to be the trio, oh my God, it's perfect, right?
yeah, I was going to say, if you gave the mic to any of those four guys without Eddie Kingston being in that segment would have went south. It's not like the Butcher or the Blade can
Totally.
sit there and hold the crowds, well, not even the crowd, but at least the fans' attention span. Nobody would care. As soon as Eddie Kingston came in the ring, I was like, "Word? Oh, what's this?" and then immediately I knew he had something to say, and it was going to be fairly important. So it was time to pay attention. And the next thing you know, I look up, they're all hugging. I'm like, well, damn, okay.
Yeah. And Eddie
Eddie
Kingston winked at the hard camera too, which I really appreciated. It was a nice little touch.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Nice little touch. I want to double down on Zach talking about Moxley's promo. I mean, Moxley is on fire with his promos, and you can tell that he's in his element and that he has it when he's not being spoon-fed shit from VKM, you know? Like, he knows what he's doing. You just have to let a guy that knows what he's doing just do his own thing, because that promo, when he's like, hey, MJF, I want you to be around for 25 years. I'm not going to be around for 25 years. The way that I wake up in the morning, I'm lucky to be around for another 18 months. That's a tremendous thing to say in a babyface promo. Just a tremendous, believable thing to say. You know what I mean?
It shows, like, vulnerability, like, which is totally, like, babyface, but it also shows, like, and then he, like, immediately followed it up with strength, like, you know what, but you know what, Saturday is not that day.
Right.
You know, like, yeah, you're going to get that, but you know what? I say I'm not going to be around forever, but I'm still around right now, motherfucker.
That,
you know what I mean? Like,
that really might have been my
good.
favorite Moxley promo since he's been in AEW. Like, I just fucking loved it.
Since the Paradigm Shift one, right? Like, that was, like, you know, the thing. And, yeah, it was so good. Like, you know, because he goes and he just says what he says, and it's truth. Like, before the Brian Cage match, which was his last title defense, he's like, I'm going to rip your arm off. And what did he do? He ripped his arm off.
Right.
And actually he didn't, because Taz threw in the towel. And then the Darby Allin one, he's like, hey, buddy, like, I love you, but you need to kick out, like, or you need to tap out whenever I get you in this thing.
Yeah.
And Darby refused to do it. Like, everything is like, he just speaks truth, and he has credibility. And so the fans believe what he says. It's like when Paul Heyman says, this is not a prediction, it's a spoiler.
Right.
Like, you know, until you break that cycle, you've got the credibility of the fans, and that's something that WWE announcers are lacking, because the WWE announcers don't even seem to know what's going on half the time. So, like, whenever you need that fan credibility, that's something that Gordon Sully and Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone like had in the past, right? Like, you had that announcer credibility where you believe what they say. Now, like, you don't even know who's going to be on WWE commentary, let alone believe what they're going to say.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just bonkers.
Before I get to my main takeaway from AEW, I'm going to say on the same, in the same vein that Zach was talking about Dakota Kai, I want to say that I believe that Ivelisse is very, very talented. I think that, she won the AEW tag team matches, and when I say that Ivelisse is very talented, I mean I like them Puerto Rican babes. That's what I'm saying.
You mean those American babes?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, well, God. Yeah, I mean they're Puerto. I mean, yeah, I know chicks from Florida. I call them Floridians, But my favorite part from AEW Dynamite was I know this is going to rub you guys the wrong way. I liked it when Ricky Starks came out and made fun of Darby Allin.
damn it.
Darby Allin's got to come out. He's got to come out with something next week that makes fun of Ricky Starks, because I think a few of those things that Ricky Starks said about Darby Allin might ring a little bit too close to home for some people. It might actually turn people against Darby Allin because, I mean, come on, he nailed him.
No, I've said I've been a Ricky Starks fan since I saw him on NWA Power, and he won the TV title. And then I heard he left the company, or they released him, whatever the case may be, basically becoming a free agent. I was thinking the two best places that I could think of off the top of my head for Ricky Starks to land would be either Impact or AEW. I mean, he does the one thing that some people have a problem doing. He can talk. Now, the fact that he can talk and he's got a little talent, he can go places. Not saying he's going to win this Darby Allin feud, but I think that getting eyes on him, because Darby Allin is the apple of some people's eyes, including myself, I think that's a good start. But like I said, for me, Ricky Starks is legit. You don't have to prove it to me. You just got to tell other people that.
If your gimmick is making fun of Darby Allin, you're my favorite wrestler. Zach, what do you think? Zach, what do you think about it? Come on.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely creative, and I think Darby Allin's like up to the challenge. You know, like his whole thing, like he does those little vignettes and stuff that he does. Those are not AEW like produced or sponsored or anything like that. Like he makes these like small films and he sends them to Tony, and he's like, hey, like, you know, if you want to use this on Dynamite, like, or whatever, like that's his whole thing. Like he's not like wrestling, he's good at it. And it's not, he respects it and he's in it, but like that's not his end all be all as far as like career goes. I've listened to interviews with him. Like he very much would like to eventually be like a filmmaker or something like that. And he knows his body's not going to hold up this entire time, especially with the style that he runs. So like he's going to use this as like a jumping off point. And I think he's got the creativity to come back at Ricky Starks, and I think they're perfect foils for each other right now. For sure. I'm excited.
I do too. Real quick shout out to Will Hobbs, who jobbed to Darby Allin, but they looked good together, and I like the way that guy worked. I think that's all I really want to say about AEW. Let's get to that 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
All right, the 3 count is the second biggest pay-per-view of WWE's calendar year. It was SummerSlam, and it happened this Sunday, and I gotta say, I watched the entire thing today, and it was a little underwhelming. I knew what happened at the end, and I have to admit, I was happy to see the big dog come back. The Roman Reigns comes back at the end of a title match between a freshly shaven, well, at least in the head, Braun Strowman versus The Fiend, still fighting in a mask. The Fiend wins the WWE title, and Roman Reigns comes back, spears everybody, work shoots on them while he's beating their ass. He tells Braun Strowman, "You're not a monster without me." He tells Bray Wyatt, "You're just a freak in a mask." I don't want to call it, it's not a heel turn. It's probably something more like they're going to be like, well, Roman Reigns, this is him as a babyface. He's just more badass than usual. It certainly seemed like a heel turn, but WWE has a problem with babyfaces using chairs and shit like that. Jason, what did you think of Roman Reigns' return?
Did not see it coming. I thought it was a kind of a waste of the Alexa Bliss involvement altogether. That's what I was looking for. Not saying that she was going to be Sister Abigail, but like I said last week, I thought she would be a part of a title change going to The Fiend, especially the way the storyline was being told. Roman Reigns coming back, I'm not calling this a heel turn because neither one of Bray or The Fiend or Braun, neither one of them are baby faces. Okay? At worst, they're heels. At best, they're tweeners. I wouldn't call Braun a heel or a baby face at this point. He was,
Neither would I, but I would say that Bray Wyatt was fighting kind of babyface in that match, don't you think? He was fighting from underneath.
Okay, I'll give you that. He's fighting from underneath, but that's what I was kind of waiting for, so where Alexa would come in, distract, however you want to do it, and that sets up the win. That doesn't take away from what Bray has already done in the past. The last time I checked, he choked out Alexa Bliss. Now, granted, he made the quote-unquote save on her, the next week, but I wouldn't even call that a save. He stopped Braun from wrecking her more. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a heel turn because they're both heels. Roman, at this point, to me, he's a tweener, but he'll always be Vince's babyface. It just depends on how you look at it. We could all look at the same match, and we're going to interpret it different ways. For me, this wasn't a heel turn.
I think that you just kind of just laid bare the problem with WWE television. But, Zach, what did you think about Roman's return?
I think that the current product is better with him than without him. The return, maybe a little underwhelming. Part of it is they decided to do a pay-per-view with 1 week's build. So there's a Payback pay-per-view next week. And that alone is kind of bonkers. So the whole thing is it just screams of WWE taglines. And like Jason said, I didn't see it coming, but that was literally the tagline of SummerSlam. They told me 80 times while I watched it that I would never see it coming. So I'm like, well, what is it that I will never see coming? They're just screaming to you that this is predetermined and that it's fake and we've got a twist in store, right? It's if M. Night Shyamalan releases a movie, I'm expecting some kind of twist because that is the height of his filmmaking creativity, is just some kind of twist. And apparently that's the height of WWE's booking now, is some kind of swerve or twist. The effectiveness of it, I don't know. We'll see. But
I will say
it just seemed like a cheap pop.
I agree with you. I'll let you finish in 2 seconds. They didn't really start pushing you'll never see it coming until pretty close to SummerSlam. So I would definitely agree with you that I'm sure there was already talk to begin with, but once they said, okay, we're going to do it, that's where you'll never see it coming started and picked up steam. Anywhere you can say it, they said it all the way lead up to it and in the pay-per-view itself. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine say in a couple of years we decide to do like we did with the NXT TakeOver Do-Over, and we do Michael Wallace-Seal said, and maybe do a SummerSlam one, right? Well, once we got to 2020, it would be the taglines, "Oh, you never see it coming." Well, we fucking saw it, and it was whatever, right? It wasn't world shaking or anything. Is the product better with Roman? Yeah, the product is better with Roman, and I think that's a testament to him. I'm a Roman fan.
I also think that's a. I mean, since the pandemic started, WWE has really been in the holding period. I mean, it's been Drew McIntyre doing the best that he can do, and that's nothing against Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is an easy guy to work. He's an easy guy to root for. But WWE Monday Night Raw has been, during the pandemic, it's been the Angel Garza, Andrade, Zelina Vega, MVP Bobby Lashley show. Basically, that's what WWE Raw has been, at least, right? I mean, they are missing guys. they are missing people. There are people that have not been around for a long time. We haven't seen Dolph Ziggler. We haven't seen Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens barely wrestles anymore. We'll get to Kevin Owens on Raw in a little bit. But they have been in a holding pattern since before WrestleMania. And
okay. Go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Bringing Roman Reigns back in, and admittedly, I don't watch SmackDown very often. As far as I can tell, it's pretty missable. I don't want to watch it. I would rather spend my time, if I'm only going to watch wrestling the day of the podcast and like sporadically in between the week, I would rather watch AEW NXT than watch SmackDown or watch Raw, to be honest. I fall asleep during Raw pretty much every Monday night because I'm tired, and I usually get after it during the weekend, and I take a ZQL, and I fall asleep about 8:30, 8:15 every night. That's fine. I'm giving myself permission on that. But what I'm saying,
no medication ain't good, brother. I'm just saying.
No, I promise it's good. But what I'm saying is, we've been in a holding pattern. This is a long way to say that I agree with Zach that the WWE product is better having Roman Reigns in, for better or for worse.
Well, I think that we can all agree it's been a holding pattern because, I mean, literally, Roman Reigns was slated to be in the main event, or what I would assume would have been the main event at WrestleMania.
He would have beat Goldberg. They just slid Strowman in there. Right.
And then literally the main event, it changed within a couple of weeks. So yeah, it's been in a holding pattern. The biggest star on the company is, going away for a little bit to make sure that he doesn't get sick. So yeah, they're going to have to sit there and figure it out. Now, to defend Drew McIntyre, I'm sorry, but since he's won the title, Lesnar and Big Show aside, you can look at any of those other matches that he's had on pay-per-view, and those matches have stood out. He's just not getting the credit because their fans aren't there physically to validate that credit.
You know what, Jason? If you thought that what I just said was some sort of slight against Drew McIntyre, then I expressed it incorrectly, because Drew McIntyre is great. I can't wait to see Drew McIntyre in front of a crowd. In fact, we need to really address the Thunderdome, because the Thunderdome made SummerSlam infinitely more watchable than WrestleMania. And WrestleMania had some good shit, but there needs to be some semblance of a crowd. And you know what? For all the shit talking we do about WWE, the Thunderdome looks fucking cool, right?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
it is a better environment for sure. Like, the jump from the Performance Center to the Thunderdome, makes me wish that NXT was in the Thunderdome.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Is it the perfect environment? No, but is it better than what we've seen the last couple of months? Absolutely.
Yes, no doubt.
Yeah,
I wish.
I agree with that.
I bet that they are kicking themselves that they didn't come up with the Thunderdome right at the beginning.
Dude, you stole my thunder. I was like, the NBA didn't come up with the Thunderdome, but they came up with the idea of virtual fans. I was surprised that WWE wasn't all over this from the word go. I mean, the setup that they did was nice, especially where it has stadium seating, for lack of a better term. You got the screens up front, and then you could see everybody's faces as they go up in the quote-unquote stand. So that was cool. I was just surprised that they didn't do it before the NBA did it first. Outside of that, I'll give them credit. I mean, like I said, for me personally, I don't need it. It's cool to have. It gives, atmosphere to it. But you gotta remember, there's somebody behind there that's, booing when it's time to boo, and cheering when it's time to cheer. You don't hear the fans.
I don't give a fuck about that.
I mean, I'm just saying.
If you're not going to have real fans in there, you might as well pipe in the fans. The problem with WWE piping in the fans is that it just seems like the fans are all talking the entire time. You know, it feels like you're at a trivia night and the person in charge of the trivia night is like doing the 50-50 or something, and everybody's just talking and not paying attention to the person. I wish they had better control over boos, cheers, murmurs, whatever. But it's better than that silent atmosphere that we had at WrestleMania.
That's fair.
One of my other big takeaways from SummerSlam, I should say, is the Angel Garza and Andrade versus Montez Ford versus the Street Profits match, in which we had Montez Ford and Andrade start the match off and just put on a hell of a show, and it made me think these guys should be fighting in a singles feud match sometime soon, and hopefully for some kind of belt, because those guys are both stars, man. And I remember it was probably 2 years ago when I said that Alberto Del Rio was probably a better worker than Andrade. I was probably wrong. I'm not going to say I was completely wrong, because I think Alberto Del Rio was a real worker and was a stud. But Andrade and Montez Ford, in the few short minutes that they were fighting on that pay-per-view, they were a lot of fun to watch together, and they are both big-time fucking stars. What do you think, Zach?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was not around for the Alberto Del Rio craze, right? Like, that was a time when I wasn't watching wrestling. So I kind of hopped on after he was at the very end of his demoralizing addiction phase. So I got to see him in Lucha Underground, but I didn't really get to see him in WWE. But Angel Garza, like multi-generational star, that guy got called up for a brief period onto the main roster, just to, as a Paul Heyman guy, just to kind of pop some ratings on Raw and maybe, get some young blood into the mix. And he, basically, stepped up to it, right? Like, now he's just a fixture on Raw. Unlike Austin Theory, who was brought up and then immediately taken off Raw based on some allegations from the speaking out movement. But I guess kind of like Velveteen Dream, they just assumed that if you're on NXT, it's okay. So they just put him on NXT again. I didn't want to make this all about that, but that's kind of weird. I was kind of surprised to see Austin Theory on NXT, but not as surprised to see Velveteen Dream and the push that he's gotten. But Angel Garza is a star. Angel Garza can be that guy that Alberto Del Rio was not. It just seems that he's going to need that support from whoever the booker is, and we'll see how he gets it. He kind of looks like a nerd right now, though. So I would like to see more, because I think he can live up to it.
JCB, what did you think about McIntyre versus Orton?
Once again, I thought it was probably one of the two best matches of the night, that and Sasha versus Asuka. The finish, I think people kind of missed the point on the finish, and don't get me wrong, it took me off guard, but somebody else said this to me, so I can't take credit for it, but it makes sense. The build for this match was Randy Orton was the greatest wrestler ever. He won the greatest wrestling match ever. He loses a backslide. I'm not expecting a backslide, but it's a wrestling move. Not every match has to end with a finisher, quote unquote. A wrestling move can win matches as well, and I think that's the takeaway from the Drew McIntyre Randy Orton match, is that a great match can end in a backslide.
Well,
or a small package or something along those lines.
I loved it so much because of that, because the whole story of the match was who's going to hit their finisher first, right? Like,
right.
Who's going to hit the RKO or who's going to hit the Claymore? Randy Orton says, "You'll never see it coming," which is the tagline of SummerSlam. Drew McIntyre says, "You're going to see it coming. I'm going to kick you in the fucking face," right? And all of a sudden, an actual wrestling move, like you said, it finishes the match. We have a WWE Championship match that finishes in backslide. I don't know the stats. I can't even have the monetary means to hire a guy, a stat guy, to do that math. But when was the last time a WWE Championship match was finished on a backslide on a pay-per-view?
Oh, it's had to have been years.
Yeah, that's the kind of swerve that I'm behind. Like, right, like this was a awesome pro wrestling match, and it made me want to see a rematch, right? Because that's obviously what they're going to.
Right.
And
nobody hit their finisher. That's the point. I went golfing with my buddies at 8 a.m. on Sunday. I got after it, did an Adderall, was doing drinks all day. Hey, I know you guys don't care, but I won the match on about a 14-foot putt. Like, it was like I had to hit the putt to win. I hit it, and then I went to a 40th birthday party. I'm telling you, I was trashed by the time I got home. I told Aaron, I got a pizza on the way home. I told Aaron, I just want to watch one match. I turned it on. It was Orton versus McIntyre, and it won in the backslide, and I was like, that's crazy, babe. That's crazy. And she was like, okay, let's, why don't you take Ezekiel and go to bed? I was like, no, they just won. There was no finishing move. Like, they're definitely going to have a rematch. She was like, okay, let's just go to bed. And I was like, it's 7:30. But, I was very surprised by it. But I was also very cool with it. I also thought the match told a really good story, which was they were both going for the knockout punch. They were both going for the Claymore kick or the RKO. They were both going for it the entire time. And then, like Zach said, they swerved us with the backslide, and I was really happy with that match. And to tell you the truth, Randy Orton's doing great work as a heel that can constantly get heat. He did a couple punts on Drew McIntyre. He did 2 punts on Drew McIntyre on Raw, and that's good shit as far as I'm concerned.
As far as WWE main roster post-pandemic, Randy Orton's the star. Like, I'll argue with anybody about that. Randy Orton, I know Drew McIntyre, they've done a really good job booking him, and he's the champion, and he looks great. But Randy Orton has been the star of post-pandemic.
I'd say him and Asuka.
No, Bailey.
All right, I think Asuka's been really good because being not in front of a crowd, but being able to rip off promos in a different language and getting over or looking good. I'd say Asuka, Orton, Bailey too. They've all looked great. You can't say enough about Angel Garza, because Angel Garza was a guy that was not on the main roster until the pandemic. And now he's solidified himself as a main roster guy.
But he still can't get Charlie Caruso to go on a date with him after 6 months.
That's just, I can't help guys with no game,
Yeah, that's good. Well, now, see, he's supposed to have game, though. So, that's not a good look. Call for what you wanted.
Say what you want. I'm a heel, man. I got game.
I'll just say this. The reason why I say Bailey is the best of the bunch, women's wise, it's been over 300 days. And there was a time on this podcast where we weren't all behind the Bailey heel turn. This heel turn has now worked and has gotten people invested in when Bailey and Sasha are going to really do it. Hell, they made a double champ, for Christ's sake.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, she's the best part of the weekly show. Bailey and Sasha are the best parts of the weekly show, and the fact that they have those tag titles and they can bounce back and forth. means
Right.
they are the best part of those shows. I'm just saying, like, as far as like marquee matches, like when I say Randy Orton, it's like that Edge feud was good with promos. The Edge promos were fantastic, and the matches, there was one bummer one and then one amazing one, and then the Randy Orton stuff has been phenomenal. But yeah, week to week, if you want to say Bayley, I'm all for it because Bayley and Sasha are the stars of this brand.
Yeah, let's pivot for a second to the women's division. Jason, who on this podcast has not been pro Bayley heel turn?
I know I said I was getting a little disappointed personally. I'll be the first one to admit it. It for me, it started off flat. And now once they brought Sasha back, that chemistry, Sasha to me is a natural heel. Bayley had to prove to me that she can make me believe that she was a heel.
All right, so let's
over the course of time.
I wanted to ask
over the course of time with Sasha especially with Sasha coming back, I thought that helped Bayley get into the heel turn more. It felt more believable. It felt more credible. She already had the title. The next thing you know, you look up, it's 200 days, 250, 300 days. Now she's got the tag team title. So, I mean, there's, for me, I will be the first to admit it. I didn't think it was good when it initially happened, and then it kind of got stagnant, and then it picked up steam when Sasha came back, and it's been rolling since.
I do have to ask you, what do you think about the fact that on SummerSlam we allowed Bayley to retain in her epic run, and then we had Sasha for the 5th time not be able to do her first title defense? She now
actually
has
I thought it was the 6th time, but I mean, who's really counting?
Regardless, what do we think about that?
It makes storyline sense. I'm not a huge fan of it because this is why I was having this argument the other day about this exact same thing. This is why I'm saying that main roster doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. Sasha is now 0 for 6 in title defenses. This guy was like, okay, well, what if she beats Bayley and has a run with the title? Well, 2 things. First is the first big if she beats Bayley. To me, the second big if and the bigger if she can defend the title, because they have shown to you time after time after time that she is at best transitional champion. She can't hold the title for more than a few days. I think 29 days was the longest title reign that Sasha Banks has had. That's plain unacceptable.
Yeah, so why can't they beat Bayley for the title? Why can't Asuka beat Bayley for the title? And then Sasha retains, and then Bayley fights Sasha for the title.
I'm not sure what you're trying to say here, Zach.
No, I get what he's saying.
They've consistently beat Sasha Banks. Remember when Sasha Banks literally left the company for months on end because she lost a title?
Yeah.
It was that important to her.
Yeah.
And now they're continuing with that story, and they're just beating her into the ground. Sasha Banks is consistently one of the biggest stars in that entire promotion, let alone just women's division, but just in the promotion in general. I know the titles are props, but now we have the 5th or 6th time. We can't even, we've lost count. It's been so many times she's lost the title. And then we're saying that, it's part of a storyline, but the storyline is so poorly told that in that storyline, we have Sasha going to take the bullet or we have Bayley going to take the bullet for Sasha, and then Bayley doesn't actually even take a hit. Sasha just gets tapped out immediately because she was distracted and looks like a total nerd. Sasha looks like shit right now. And I think Bayley had a huge run, and she's a big star, and she deserves that run. But Sasha just continually looks like a goddamn jobber. And I don't know how you redeem her, even if she beats Bayley for a championship. She just looks like a goddamn nerd, man.
Oh,
here's the problem. Here's the problem with WWE.
Couldn't disagree more.
They're not smart. Okay.
Oh,
and
that's the problem.
Oh.
That's the problem. Yes, they are. The WWE baby faces are dumb as box of rocks. You could have a sign of danger ahead. They'll walk past the danger sign right into an ambush. They don't see. How many times have you were sit there looking at it and you're like, okay, well, so and so is going to interfere, or he's getting ready to get jumped in this contract side, and they do not make their baby faces look smart at all. And that's my biggest problem.
She's not a baby face.
Okay, in this case, she's kind of being painted as babyface because she's being taken advantage of. I will help you, but now when it's time for you to help me, you're not helping me.
Yeah.
You're being taken advantage. Corey Graves is riding it into the ground. Michael Cole kind of – well, not Michael Cole, but I can't even think who's on the other – well, it is Michael Cole. I'll take
Tom
that back.
Phillips.
Tom Phillips, I'm sorry. Tom Phillips is kind of chiming in on too. So, I mean, they're telling the story. It's whether or not, once again, do you think – are you going to give the benefit of the doubt to think that they're going to actually pull the trigger with Sasha and give her a legit title run? And I mean, this goes past 1, 2, 3 title opponents for weeks on end.
You guys are insane. She's on TV. She's on fucking Raw. She's on SmackDown. She's on NXT. She makes all sorts of money. She doesn't give a fuck whether or not she has the belt, and nobody else does.
Is that why she left for months on end, because she doesn't care if she has a belt?
Well, I mean, she might care if she has. Maybe she does care if she has the belt. She shouldn't, because she makes all the fucking money. If you're on TV all the time, you make the money. Huh?
The show is better with her, and we've proven that the show is better with her.
The show's better with her. She's still on the show, though.
She is, but
He's heating up.
They have an easy story to tell, and they don't want to go the easy route because they want to swerve us, and we'll never see it coming. That's the part that annoys me. Don't swerve me for the sake of swerving me. Like we said before, predictability sometimes wins. We're gonna see Chris Jericho sputtering orange juice in a couple weeks, and I can't wait. And what are you gonna swerve me, and you're gonna throw Tony Schiavone in there sputtering orange juice? No, I don't give a shit. I don't want to see Tony Schiavone sputtering orange juice. I want to see Chris Jericho sputtering orange juice. This is the story. It's a tale as old as time, right? Goddamn Beauty and the Beast shit. Just give me the Beauty and the Beast.
Are you calling Bailey a beast, you fucking misogynist? God damn it. Wait, you talking about Schiavone?
Yeah, Schiavone's the beast.
It's got that single earring.
Oh man, that single earring is. You know what? Everybody should do what they want to. You know what?
There you go.
That's gonna do it for our 3 count.
1, 2, 3.
All right, let's get into the predictions before we get to the odds and ends. Speaking of Sasha Banks and Bayley, at Payback this Sunday, the first pay-per-view in 7 days. I couldn't believe that this pay-per-view was coming up this Sunday. I couldn't believe it. We have Sasha Banks and Bayley versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the women's tag team belts. Zach Pullman, I'll go with you first. Who you got?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I cannot imagine them losing these belts. As, like I said before, the highlight of the weekly shows. You're gonna relinquish these belts to 2 people who have such low charisma, because Vince doesn't know how to book Shayna, and not everybody hates Nia. I can't imagine them taking these belts. That would be the dumbest shit ever.
So you're going Bayley and Sasha Banks?
Yeah, Bayley and Sasha.
I'll go next. I'm going to go Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. I'm going to predict that the breakup between Sasha Banks and Bayley happens this Sunday. It seems like no time at all. It also seems like it's been taking forever. I'm going Nia Jax and Sasha and Shayna Baszler. JCB, who you got?
They have drugged this out. Survivor Series is creeping around the corner. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the trigger early, but I'm agree with Bill on this one. It's dumb, but how many times have we seen the mismatched tag team become tag team champions? I'll take Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler.
Okay, cool. Next up, we got Apollo Crews versus Bobby Lashley for the what is it, the U.S. title?
Yeah, man, U.S. title.
All right, I'll go first. I'm going to take Apollo Crews to retain again. JCB, you can go next.
They don't care about Lashley, Jason. You know that. I'll go Apollo Crews. Not like they care about Apollo Crews either, but this would be a really good spot for Lashley to be the sole title holder for the Hurt Business. Like I said on Twitter the other night, Vince needs to understand that he can have black guys be in feuds with non-black guys. Two Beer Zach, who you got? Apollo Crews or Bobby Lashley?
I wish this mattered. I feel like Bobby Lashley just because I have no feelings about it. It's annoying. All
right, you might have some feelings about this one. We have Keith Lee versus Randy Orton in a singles match. Now, this one's pretty interesting, and I'll go first. I think it's going to end in a no contest or something like that. And the next pay-per-view we have is going to be Keith Lee, Orton, and Drew McIntyre. But, I'm going to take Orton. Jason, what you got?
Dude, I mean, we can't have triple threats all the time, man. I know you love it, but you have to calm down on that shit.
There's no reason to put him in the middle of this unless they're planning on having a triple threat. And putting him in a ring with Randy Orton going into this week's pay-per-view means that they're taking him seriously. So who are you taking?
No, it doesn't mean that they're taking him seriously by the way that they changed his music and his wardrobe to this is called a filler match.
Put the whole system on trial, Jason. Just put the whole system on trial.
I'm just saying, man, this is the filler. Okay, let's not jump the gun on Keith Lee. I mean, he had a 4-minute match on Raw, and now all of a sudden they're taking him seriously. Come on, man. And it's Randy Orton. Right?
I picked Randy Orton.
Okay, but I'm just saying, I'm pushing back on the Keith Lee. They're taking him seriously. No, they're not taking him seriously. Okay, if they were taking him seriously, they'd have put him against somebody
Make your
that
pick.
He could have went over with first. Who do you think I'm picking?
Orton.
Good Lord.
You're taking Orton?
Yeah, man. Stevie Wonder can see I'm picking Randy Orton.
Yeah, man. You know, I like the way you talk, using 40 words when 4 would do. What do you take, Zach?
I'm taking Orton because I just can't imagine after the debut they gave Keith Lee where they made his music like generic entrance number 33 and it gave him some goddamn.
Man, this makes me want to redo my pick.
It gave him some goddamn.
Go ahead, man, motherfucker.
Go ahead. It was like, let's cover up that gut with some gym shorts and a t-shirt, just like we did.
You guys are so fucking cynical.
Kevin Orton, I'm sorry, you got Kevin Owens. Shit, they did the same thing to him. Oh, we can't have him going out here without a shirt on. Put a shirt on that man.
All right.
And had a shirt on says.
Shut the fuck up.
You gonna take Keith Lee, big boy?
No.
No, then shut the fuck up. Moving on.
Okay. From the least likely to the most likely, we have The Fiend versus Strowman versus Roman Reigns. I'll go first. All right, motherfucker.
He bad, boss.
I'm gonna go Roman Reigns most likely to win. Fiend second most likely, and Strowman third. JCB, what do you got?
Exactly the same thing. This is
you fucking.
It's not a knock against Braun Strowman. I just don't think he is world championship material. I think that Vince is not going to fuck around this second time and not put the strap on Roman. scared off because of Corona, missed out on WrestleMania. He is not going to miss out a second time. Roman Reigns is going to be the champion. Fiend second, Braun third.
Who you got, Zach? Same? Oh, Jesus Christ. You guys are fucking boring. Okay, you guys talk about...
Well, I'm not going to change my pick just because you guys picked the same thing.
I don't want you to.
And honestly, we're doing predictions, and like they're doing a week's build, and there wasn't a single angle on SummerSlam. So we're both based off Raw. There's going to be multiple angles Friday, and then there's going to be a whole half a card that we don't even know. This is the dumbest prediction show ever.
Yeah, it's stupid. Why don't you guys talk about New Japan for a minute?
Oh, my Lord, have mercy. Well, I'm talking about New Japan?
I guess so.
Okay, well, shit. New Japan. We had the start of the KOPW tournament, I guess. Well, I shouldn't call it tournament, but I guess the opening round matches where you had what was it, Sonata and Show in a submission match. Yano versus was it no? Let me make sure I'm getting this right. It was Bushi and Yano versus in a two count match. Kojima and Despy in a no finishers match, and then the main event, obviously Okada versus Gato, Yano, and Takahashi in a handicap match. Biggest takeaway from me is, man, this is one of those times where I wish New Japan had all its stars, because I shouldn't say I love Okada. I like Okada. I respect him. He's arguably the greatest wrestler alive, but I mean, I'm getting a little sick of seeing him beat down Gato, Jado, Takahashi. I mean, at a certain point, I need some new blood. The good part about it is, obviously, the 29th is coming around, and they will have that four-way to crown the first KOPW champion, probably Okada. See the Cody Rhodes theory on championships. You want to probably put it on somebody that's going to make it prestigious, and then move to a Brody Lee. I was thinking maybe Sonata, because you just saw this meteoric rise from Evil. Not saying that he being Sonata has to have that same meteoric rise, but if it wasn't Okada, I would think it would be Sonata. I just can't see Yano being the champion at this point. Not saying it because I hate him, but I just can't see it personally. Who am I missing? Desperado. I can't see that either. So, I mean, realistically, to me, you got two guys that really have the chance to win it. I would love Sonata to win it, but obviously I think anything with Okada in the match is Okada's to win until you show me otherwise.
All right. Anything else to add, Zach? Perfect.
This is banned from Ringside.
We got some
Sorry, I was muted.
You were muted. Too bad, motherfucker. We got some birthdays this week. The Great Khali is 48. Sergeant Slaughter is 72. Jeff Hardy is 43. Mickey James, my age, is 41. Ember Moon is 32. What? Bam Bam.
She's looking a mite better than you are.
Fuck off. Bam Bam Bigelow is 59. Wait, that can't be right. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Yeah, 59. Would have been 59. Shout out to my friend Cameron Mangle, who I went to college with. We used to call him Cam Bigelow. And Sammy Callahan is 33. Hey, everybody. We know there's tons of podcasts to listen to, so we appreciate you guys listening to our podcast. For F&B Eatery, for Vice, for Shock City Studios, for Murray the Man, Murray, for Lucha Chris, For Two Beers, Zach Pullman. For Jason Cornelius Bell, I am Bill Vagey. Friends, it was fun being back with you this week. I missed you guys. I'll see you guys next week. And everybody, boo the fucking heels.